And I actually saw a thread about this online where someone had said, hey, you know, once Trump comes in, this is all not going to be as big of a problem. And I remember responding to them saying, hey, I understand. I don't think these regulations, being the Federal Trade Commission Act, I don't think that's going to get impacted. And it is that act that dictates us as marketers and what we can and cannot say and whether we get subpoenaed and looked into or not.
So what I would imagine you'll see is you'll see a shift potentially, but I don't know if there's going to be that much difference in the regulatory actions that are brought. I think the biggest issues you're going to see and the biggest impact that Trump's had or the conservative parties had on the FTC has been the judiciary.
Okay, so we have an interesting political time going on right now. It's election year. And I'm not here to opine on candidates or what's going to happen, but right now, the pundits and the actual experts are saying that it looks like it's a shoo-in for Donald Trump. I absolutely do condemn what happened. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and I know Greg would agree, and I think as a nation we can't accept any of that, so that's out there for sure. What I want to know is what happens to the FTC if Donald Trump wins. So we're going to take a moment to just assume that Donald Trump has won. And I'm kind of curious what happens. There's been a lot of regulations over the last few years. And one of the things I hear a lot about Republicans, and I hear about from Donald Trump himself when he was president, was that he removed a lot of regulations. So I'm kind of curious if there's anything that, you know, Greg has obviously seen this for 20 years. He's been through many different presidents, and he's been through many different Republican versus Democratic kind of, you know, switchovers. So I'm curious to see that. Then the second thing we're going to discuss is it looks like our work here at NAOAC and at Don't Say That is starting to rattle some cages. It turns out some people may not like it. And so I'm taking some bullets myself, proverbial bullets, nothing like what our past president went through. But I got kind of nasty, slanderous attack sent out about me, and I was made aware of it. And not picking a battle. Again, I don't care. People can like me, not like me. That's fine. I did get kind of pissed off that the whole hit piece was on me. They didn't even mention Greg Christiansen's name. He's right here. Hit him too. Hit him, because then he'll sue and like it'll be fun. Stop kidding. I'm just saying. It was like I actually asked Greg. I'm like, is this some kind of like professional code amongst lawyers? Like, what the hell? Like, why did I take all the bullets that came out of that chamber in that hit? And so we'll talk a little bit about that. Look, we'll start there first. The whole thing there was, oh my God, Anik is such a horrible human being. Look at he did this, and now he's commercializing it, and he's trying to use fear mongering. And it went on to actually, in my opinion, give bad advice. And it was like, oh, the FTC is not out to get you. And like, as long as you're a good person and do good things, you're fine. And then there was a line in the email that actually said this, Greg, so this is going to get you. It actually specifically said, you don't need an FTC compliance expert to help you. I'm like, huh? Well, I beg to differ just from my personal experience, but all right. So first and foremost, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Again, like I said, I'm being a little sarcastic. I really don't care. If someone wants to attack me for their benefit, well, I do it. I mean, I've been doing this 20 years. Trust me, it ain't the first time. And I see the benefit that we're bringing to the community. I see the people that are being blessed by this information. I see the people that we're supporting and what they're saying. And so I'm going to go ahead and feed off of their energy and not the few that are getting all in a uproar about this. So first and foremost, Greg, if Donald Trump, and then by the way, if we still have time, we're going to talk about a particular case. If not, we'll talk about that case next, because there are some interesting things coming up in this whole contractor versus employee world. Seems to be another area where the regulators just want to regulate. Greg, assume November comes around. Donald Trump wins the presidency, takes the office in January. What happens specifically, if anything, to the FTC and the regulatory world and blah, 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 all that stuff? Go.
So let's go back to when Trump was elected in 2016, right? If you guys all remember, maybe you don't, but almost successively right before he took office, he settled his issues with the FTC with Trump University. So there was a settlement, and then he entered into that. And then Trump appointed Andrew Smith to be the FTC chair. Andrew Smith came from a conservative background, Republican, but he was pretty aggressive on bringing actions while he was as the chairperson. currently we've got Lena Khan, who was appointed by Biden in March of 2021, and she's served in that. She's interesting because she's not US born. She was born in the UK, went to
Oh,
Yale, William College. So she's typical of a lot of what I would say people who are in the FTC, which is they come from Ivy League type backgrounds, and they really haven't worked in the private sector very long. So she's like an associate or an adjunct professor at Columbia, which, if you're watching anything about Columbia and about the whole things with the protests in Israel and stuff like that, pretty progressive university. So first and foremost, say Trump does, you know, say that all the people calling for Biden to resign, he doesn't, he runs and he loses, and Trump becomes the next president. Then what he will be able to do then is to reappoint a new chairperson, and that'll generally be conservative. If you look at what some of the administrative rulings, so that the commissioners are made up to 5 commissioners of the FTC right now. 3 are liberal, 2 are conservative, and they vote pretty consistently that way. There are some cases where they all unanimously vote on things, but yeah, so you would have a new chairperson, and then that chairperson should have some effect on it, and they'll dictate some of the cases that are being brought, but a lot of the cases that are being brought, understand, are brought by the subcommittees, right? So in the FTC, you have a whole bunch of different divisions. One of those divisions is the Consumer Protection Division, and then even that has subdivisions: advertising, marketing practices, etc. And the division chairs, the associate directors, they're the ones that bring these cases. But when they want to bring the case, before they can actually bring it, they have to take it to the commission to vote on it. And there are cases where they'll bring cases and it's unanimous regardless of the chair, conservative or liberal. But other times you'd say that there are cases that are brought, that there's some contention. So what I would imagine you'll see a shift potentially, but I don't know if there's going to be that much difference in the regulatory actions that are brought. I think the biggest issues you're going to see, and the biggest impact that Trump's had or the conservative parties had on the FTC, has been the judiciary. And the recent the cases where they have the Looper case overturning Chevron, the SEC case, where it's overturning the administrative actions and getting administrative fines at administrative level against companies based upon fraud. They'll have to bring that in federal court now. Those 2 cases, when you really look down to it, what were the judges that voted to overturn Chevron? What were the judges that overturned the SEC's authority to bring administrative fraud actions for millions of dollars? Those are all the conservative judiciary. They're all, Trump appointees in most cases, or, prior Bush appointees. So, yeah, I think his biggest influx, and it doesn't look like there's any current Supreme Court justices are looking to retire anytime soon, but if there were, he'd have an impact on that. But I wouldn't say that when Trump took office the first time, and maybe it's because he had just settled Trump University, that there was a big swing with that. But I would expect this. I would expect, if in this second term, or what does he care after that if he gets elected and he's never running again? Second term, he'd probably put somebody that's pretty conservative in as the chair, and then try, look at that, because you got a lot of antitrust things that are going on right now based upon the FTC. They've got the Amazon case, the FTC, or the Facebook case. You've got a lot of these, Google cases where they're going after the big companies for antitrust stuff. I can see that maybe taking a backseat. I think that a conservative in there might allow laissez-faire economics a little more non-government intervention. But yeah, there's some things that you'll have in there. I think that you could look at and say, the agenda currently of the administration is anti-competition type stuff. That's why the FTC in April of this year came out and said, hey, we're issuing this rule, which we're going to see how that applies now with Looper. This rule that, that we're going to consider under Section 13 of the FTC Act, that non-competes are a violation of that. Well, that's an antitrust thing. That's definitely something that's promoted both by the Biden administration and by Ms. Khan is she serves as the chairwoman of the Federal Trade Commission. So if you put those together and you have somebody else in there, you probably don't see as much pressure as what you're seeing right now, because
Hmm.
I would say that when Andrew Smith was the chairperson under Trump, took a step back, wasn't as aggressive on all of that. But we all thought when Trump got elected last time that there could be some sweeping changes. There was noticeable changes, but I wouldn't say they were sweeping. I still think if you're out there and you're offering an Amazon offer telling people that they're going to make $1 gazillion in 2 months, that the FTC is going to investigate that regardless of who's president. And if you're misleading and misdirecting and deceiving customers, they're going to bring an action against you.
Got it. So, and I think the way you described this to me earlier was that, hey, the top people might change, but the people that are actually responsible for the day to day, determining who gets investigated, who gets CIDs, those people have been in there and in the same positions now for years and years, if not decades, and so they're really not going to change how they do it. And to foresee that a chairperson coming in that says, hey, stop it. We don't want to stop that person from saying those things. We don't want to be that aggressive. It seems a little ridiculous because even that chairperson would probably still say we can't have people making these ridiculous high claims. I do think, though, because I watch the All In podcast a lot, and on that one, they've been talking about how damaging the current work of the FTC has been on the whole M&A world, and how that's actually really stifling growth, startups. It's stifling exits. And so that's stifling VCs from putting money in because they don't trust anymore that the Microsofts and the Googles and the Amazons and the Apples are going to scoop up their startup companies, because every acquisition that these companies are trying to make are being put under the microscope and being rejected. So they were talking about how that's like really suffocating cash into startups and suffocating innovation, which that wasn't there in prior administration. So I was like, all right, that's probably one of the things that you could probably see soften so that they can re-inspire business. What does he mean then? So I guess in the FTC land, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of regulations that would be impacted, because they constantly preach about how the first thing they do when they come in as conservatives is remove and limit regulations. And I actually saw a thread about this online where someone had said, hey, once Trump comes in, this is all not going to be as big of a problem. And I remember responding to them saying, hey, I understand that. I don't think these regulations, being the Federal Trade Commission Act, I don't think that's going to get impacted. And it is that act that dictates us as marketers and what we can and cannot say, and whether we get subpoenaed and looked into or not. Yeah, just curious. Now, also, my case, Greg, was brought in. So first question is, did I kind of stay that right? Like, it's higher level regulations that get impacted, not quite at the level that us marketers play at.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the SEC versus Jarsky case, which is the administrative case, and the Looper case, those are big. Those probably are going to play a bigger role in regulatory guidance. The only other thing I can think of on this, Sonic, is that when AMG Capital Management was rolled in April of 2021, the FTC was like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. It's a bad day for consumers. And by the way, we're going to go and amend the FTC Act to get this done. With a conservative president without an agenda to do that, and with a conservative Congress, and assume if they take that, the Senate as well, I don't know if they get anything amended under the FTC Act for 4 years.
I mean, they weren't able to do it even with this current administration, so
It
definitely
hasn't
not a new
been
one.
a priority. There's so many other things that they've been focusing on
Yeah.
that I just don't see how that comes into play. So as a big picture, I just don't see there's a big thing. I think the biggest thing we're going to see is this. Because of Jarsky, which is the administrative action about frauds, whether those notice provision cases are going to go forward because they've only been administrative before, and now they have to go into court, and somebody's going to get hit. Like, they're going to send one of those notices. So far, what we haven't seen yet, somebody who received those initial notices from October of 2021 on all those companies, including them saying you got it, which you didn't get, that those somebody's going to do that they're going to get upset about, and they're going to sue. You see some cases where they put in the press release that it was part of the settlement, right? Whether it's the gig case or the Raging Bull case or one of those cases, they'll mention it. But I don't know whether or not that really, the Wealth Press case, what really played in as a factor. I know they tried to use it as leverage. What I want to see is whether they bring that in an action. They use that as justification to go after a company in court. Because if they don't, then this Jarsky case, this SEC Jarsky case, I think that's going to be a big challenge for them in court to bring those notice violation cases. So I'm going to watch. We're going to see. The other thing we're going to look at and see is how does Looper play into this when they go into the next case they bring in court, that they don't get an asset freeze. Because remember, they get an asset freeze, the other side doesn't have a chance, right? They don't have any money to defend it. But they get a big company that has the resources to defend it, assuming they hit somebody like that. Let's see how Looper plays into place. If it allows the company to say, hey, listen, these testimonial advertising guidelines are rules made by the FTC to give direction to the court. The court, because of Looper, says you don't have to consider those anymore. The discretion of the judge is there. But what I worry about is the judge is going to find that discretion independent from that and still make the ruling. So we don't know. We're going to find out.
Okay. So basically the whole notice of penalty thing, that was their response to the AMG Capital case. Like, that is high enough level of a regulatory decision that they might change how they approach that based off of the commissioner sitting at the top chair, whether they pursue it, don't pursue it, double down, triple down, test it. Like, those are the types of things that could get impacted by the leadership. Did I summarize that?
That's exactly
right. So then, so to us marketers, for the most part, guys, the Federal Trade Commission Act is what it is. I don't expect there to be massive changes there. Greg, in my case, 2022 May is when I got the actual CID. You've said before that typically when you get a CID, that they've probably been building your case or looking at you for about a year. So that would be 2021. Biden and his administration and the current leadership at the FTC would have been placed there in January of 2020. I'm just curious, is it safe to say that most of my case got taken up not because of the Biden administration or anything, but just during the Biden administration? Or is it possible that they were tracking me even way longer than that?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably the time that you received the notice of violation. Well, they sent it or alleged they sent it, not that you got it.
Okay. So dang it, President Biden, leave me alone. I blame you. All right, sorry. I was getting there. I was like, as long as he says it, was like, I'm gonna go there.
I didn't want to say this before we go on. So the negative feedback that you've got on social media and emails and stuff about your case and who you are and why we're doing this, let me set the record clear on this. It's for everybody, because you don't know the conversation. Everybody here doesn't know the conversation you and I had. Yeah. And conversation went like this from my perspective. Anik got into this thinking he was following the law. When they got the CID, I think one of the biggest things that I took away from it was your shock in that anything was wrong in the first place, because you had paralegals and competent attorneys that were looking over this, and you thought you were in good standing, notwithstanding the letter and whether you got it or not. Like, you felt like you're in pretty good position. And even when I looked at your marketing, I'd have to say, as a level of like concern with all the indicators and factors like low chargebacks and low refunds and not a lot of complaints, or A plus rating with the BBB, like all the indicators that you normally wouldn't see with a company that was hit by the FTC, those natural indicators did not exist in your case. And in fact, until I got into the nitty gritty and the weeds, I didn't really identify, or I wasn't able to see exactly why the FTC had an issue with it. And I think they pivoted on your case, by the way, anyway, because initially it was the webinars that they had concerns with, but once they realized they didn't there, they looked to tell them. So individual externally being critical, basing the claims based on two things. If FTC drafted lawsuit, which just know this, as a litigator, when we draft lawsuits and complaints, it's always in the light most favorable to the party that's suing, right? It always makes the defendant look terrible, whether they've done it or not, because that's their job in bringing the case. So if you look at an FTC complaint and you read it on its face value and you take everything to be true, that's like picking up a National Enquirer and thinking that aliens are going to land in New York next week. Like, it's never going to be 100% accurate in the way that it's presented. And courts know that, and defense counsel, we know that, but that's just the way the game is. We call it a pleading state, or a pleading position, where you say, hey, this is all the bad things that happen there. So for an independent person to look at the complaint and then base an interpretation of what happened, not on personal knowledge, but some sort of press release, and then say, oh, Onyx a terrible person and he's doing this and this. It's BS. It's condemning you without any of the information. But when you and I decided to do this together, the purpose of this was, well, crap. I thought I was doing it all right. And if I didn't know I was doing it right, think of all the other people that aren't doing it right. And let's be an educator. Let's go out there and provide some content so that they have a basis for this. So far as I know, we're not bringing in millions and millions of dollars in high ticket sales offers like some people are doing when they send emails out and they say, oh, by the way, you don't need to hire some specialists, but come and hire me. And it's just like, okay.
So thanks for saying that. And I do want to get into that because I want to talk about very factually about what happened and what I read and why it was disappointing. And again, like I said, I don't really care. I'm not attacking. But to close the loop on the President Donald Trump winning, not winning, I do think there's changes. We agreed there's high-level, heavy regulatory changes. There's leadership changes that do happen, will happen. You can almost guarantee it. How much that impacts what we as marketers are doing, not much. The law, what we talk about, what Greg and I talk about, comes straight from a Congress-approved congressional, like it's a law. It's the Federal Trade Commission Act, and there are no calls to amend those rules, and so I don't think that's going to be even anywhere on the top 500 things that Donald Trump would probably want to address, and even if he wants to address it at all. So I don't think it's going to change anything that's in this book. I don't think it's going to change anything that's inside of our Compliant Academy. Wink, wink. Go to compliantacademy.com and enroll and be a part of that and the book. And now I'm going to be accused for fear mongering and selling things. Of course, Complyly. Go check out complyly.com. We've got some incredibly satisfied, very happy customers that are using it and getting a lot of goodness and great work out of it. So we close that loop, and I want to spend about 5 minutes talking to the quote-unquote haters. First of all, love you. Really do. I have nothing against you. I'm disappointed in probably the caliber and level of person that chose to send out that mail, and that's actually a compliment to you versus ridicule. I just thought it was a little below the belt for you. I thought it was a little bit... didn't really speak volumes. And the other part that got to me was that the email that went out, I'm talking about one particular, I've had other people on social media hit me up and say, oh, look at him, he went and, he's just this horrible human and now he's twisting it and turning it into something. Yeah, a lemon into lemonade. Oh, shoot me. I made mistakes, and now I'm out here owning them and talking about it and trying to help other people from not doing it. Let's get the record straight, by the way. None of this has made us any damn money. Not a penny. Both Greg and I are in the hole. Big holes. A lot of time, a lot of money. I have not made a penny in profit from this. And I wouldn't say that with my compliance attorney on if it wasn't true. So for anyone to say that I'm out here making millions by doing fear-mongering, it's sad because it's unfounded and it's unknowledgeable and it's unintelligent. I genuinely started this as a mission. It was a work of passion to just get something out to the industry and to have an opportunity to tell my side of the story. I am not by any means saying, and neither have I ever said that, hey, I never made any mistakes. What I've said very clearly is that all the metrics that I actively managed, controlled, and spent a lot of money to manage and control never showed me that I was doing anything to hurt consumers, because in this same quote-unquote hit piece, I was accused for having hurt a lot of people. But I'm like, show me the people, right? I wouldn't have continued to do it. I'm not stupid. I've been in this industry for 21 years. And even the person who wrote this negative piece about me, some of their own clients are people I've worked with and probably wouldn't have anything bad to say about me. And so we were very actively managing and doing our best job. Now, of course, when you read the press release or the complaint letter by the FTC, I'm not knocking them either, but I don't agree with a lot of the things they said. But I don't have any control over it. It's just me. I don't have any rights to challenge it, question it, dictate it, be a part of it. So first and foremost, one of the misfacts in that email was that I had notification and that I had received the notice of penalty. Wrong. And I've got signed affidavits here. I've got proof I never received it. Okay. So, but okay, did the commission accept that? I guess not. It doesn't really serve their purpose. But notice how we didn't settle on it. Read the actual, look at what I paid the fines towards, and look at all the other cases around mine. Those companies were charged a notice of penalty violation fee. I wasn't. Curious. I wonder, why not? Because I never received it. Number 2 claim made in this email was that I received the notice and for 2 years continued to violate, again, misfounded and incorrect. And had that person taken a moment to hear my side of the story before they wrote this, they would have known. Here's why it's factually incorrect and it's unintelligent to write it. Because the notice supposedly came to me in October of 2021, right? I never got it. I have proof of that. And then the CID came to me in May of 2022. So let's do the math. November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Maximum of 7 months. I got the notice. Within literally 3 days, not even. I got the notice on Friday. Monday morning, 9 a.m. That's not it. It was a weekend. Monday morning, 9 a.m., my entire business had been shut down. By choice. By choice. I wasn't told I have to. I shut down every funnel, every piece of revenue. And by Thursday of the following, so now it's it's 6 days since I got the CID, I had to lay off about 85% of my team because we shut down the business. So to say for 2 years I continued to violate is factually so incorrect that I can very quickly and easily prove it to be incorrect and wrong. So that would assume, if I was actually violating for 2 years, that would assume that while I was under investigation by the FTC under CID, I continued to violate, right? And whether that was even said in this in their settlement report with me, I don't remember, but it's just not possible. It's not true. It's physically not true. Then on top of that, another thing that was said in there was that I used cherry-picked testimonials that lacked disclaimers. Not true. Every single one of my testimonials had disclaimers. The truth, and why I believe you do need an FTC compliance expert attorney in countering what was said in that email, is the truth is, even if you have the disclaimers, it's not enough. Greg has spoken about this at length with us. There are 4 rules for testimonials. You have to have you have to have the disclosure. Well, sorry, you have to have a signed affidavit. You have to have substantiation, which I did not have. I didn't know. And you have to, it has to be typical. And then you have to have a disclaimer. But even if you have a disclaimer and it's not the typical result, you're in violation. I didn't know that, right? So that means that most people using testimonials, even if they have substantiation and have disclosures, they're still violating the rule. Hence why you have to have someone like Greg who's been doing this for 20 years. So that was said, and it's like, not true. I actually had that. And that's why. And then it was said that on every sales call, I know that's what the FTC did. Every sales call, my agents would say, we can 100% help you with that. It's not true. Now, we did though. We did ask, what is your goal? And we did support their goal. I didn't know that's a violation. Did you know? Find me a place on literature where it says, what is your goal is a violation. Find me anywhere online where that's said. I never knew that until Greg did an audit of our sales calls. And I wish I had him audit my sales calls before, but I didn't know Greg. So once we got the CID and I got Greg in there and he looked at the sales calls, he said, that's a violation. I said, shoot, I didn't know. So, just going off of one piece, and the thing that really bothered me about that email, that again, I'm not attacking the person. Do what you got to do. I don't care. I'm not here to fight this battle. I'm not going to respond to this again. But this is the only one that was very specific. And the reason I've not acknowledged any of the other ones that have come out on social media or whatever is because they're not even worth it. This person, I just expected more from, given their position. I just thought it was a little beneath them actually to do it. But the last piece was that the whole email pivoted into a pitch to use them. And I was the one accused of fear-mongering. So I want to put this out there. How am I fear-mongering when we are out here giving the education, which is factual from the FTC Act, and I'm simply saying, yeah, you could be next. That's factual. If you don't fix things, you could be next. Don't be me. Know the law. And so the book is $10 or $7, soon about to be $5 for the digital version. If you bought all the upsells, because I was ridiculed for the countless courses and upsells that I'm selling. Okay, fine. Let's say there's a couple of upsells. Let's say you buy them all up, okay? You're in $150, maybe. Oh, then I have the Academy. Great, you buy that. That's $300 to start. It's $1,500 total, but $300 to get started. So now we're up to like $400, maybe $450. That's it. I mean, Complyly just launched. It wasn't mentioned in the email, but so in less than what probably most attorneys charge for 1 hour of their time, we're dispelling and giving all the information. So now you tell me who's fear-mongering. Me or the person who used my case to then turn around and get appointments? That's my piece. I said my piece. If you want to counter hit, go for it. I won't be replying to it. But it was low. It was unfounded. It wasn't fair because it was one-sided. And given your caliber and your position, I expect more. I expect better. And I would have expected expect better. And anyways, but hey, if I was able to help you get some clients, I'm happy. And I'm hopeful that those clients get well served and that they clean up their marketing and they're protected. That's my mission. If anyone doesn't believe it, I don't know what to tell you. Then don't follow, don't read, don't watch, don't do anything. And if anyone's just getting a little butthurt because we're out here doing good, that's your problem, not my problem. Anyways, probably said way more than I was planning on saying there, Greg, but I think it needed to be said. It's been bugging me for now a week, and I've been back and forth about whether I was going to address it or not, and I chose to address it. So, but kudos on the professional courtesy for not naming Greg. And just making the whole fucking thing about me. Seriously. Like, literally, it was like, oh, there's this lawyer. Like, go ahead, name him, for crying out loud. His name is right here. It's in the book, first before mine. It's above mine over here. Like, his face is everywhere. Name the guy. Make it fair. So, anyways. Greg, thanks for being a partner on this. I know that, when you did it, I'm pretty sure even you expected that there would be some proverbial bullets flying your way and that there would be, people who would attack and question. But for the most part, hey, in the professional community, we've had nothing but love, I think. I think people have just, received it. There's been some haters and it is what it is. So anyways, we pivoted.
You and I
talked about this.
There are other larger law firms that are duplicating what we're doing. And that I'm not ashamed of them doing it. I'm glad they're doing it. I think
I love it.
Yeah. They're doing podcasts and they're sending the message out there. And I'm sure they've seen what we've done and they've like, yeah, this is a really good idea. And they've done it themselves. And if anything, imitation is flattery. Like the fact that they're doing it now is great. And, the good law firms, that's what they're going to do. They're going to look at what we're doing and they're going to be like, hey, this is a really good service. We should offer something similar. And I'm not afraid of that competition. You let them go out there and do it. And when they do it's
look,
great.
Greg, both you and I started with our mission of this is really about awareness. And we said, hey, if it turns into something great, you have a law firm. Hopefully this helps and gets you clients. I have my main business. There's nothing to do with this. And I was like, all right, let's do it and come together. It's been forever. I mean, we've been working on this project. The book itself took 6 months. And if anyone thinks that we're making millions on it, we're really not. Our mission was awareness, and we're not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. So you're not going to say nasty things about me and be mean to me and get me to stop. Just FYI. That's not how I'm made. Didn't get to where I am today. But I have a mission. Greg and I both have a mission. We're going to go. The only thing right now that I've been debating and going back and forth on is whether I'm going to law school or not. And dang it, it's 3 years. Somehow if President Trump, if you come into office, can you make law school 2 years? I'll go to law school, but 3 is too much. Greg, I think we're at 32 minutes. It was fun topic to hit to see what changes would come up. And thanks for giving me an outlet and opportunity to talk about that email, just because it was one of the few that got under my skin because I thought it was unfair. And beyond that, guys, next time we'll keep hitting more topics for you. Don'tSayThat.com to get the book, buy the upsells, buy the courses, make us into millionaires. And of course, enroll into Compliant Academy if you want more access to Greg, if you want some of those legal disclosures and things that are pre-done for you that you can use in your marketing. And also, check out Complyly. We're up and running. I'm not marketing it too aggressively. We're still building, all right? There's still some construction signs when you go in there. We're not perfect by any means, but we are helping, and it's not replacing a lawyer. So I would actually encourage you to be a part of Complyly and then work with Greg as well. And it will reduce the amount of time you have to spend with Greg, which is good, but it won't replace Greg ever. Greg, any final words before we close up?
No, you're a great partner, and I got you back on this. So well
Thanks,
done.
man. All right. Appreciate you. All right, everybody. Go out there, be merry, be happy. Make sure you vote this year. It's a big year. And get excited for whatever the future is. It's a great country. I still believe that. We'll come together. We'll figure it out. And as I always say, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. I had an opportunity to do that the last week or so. Life is good. See you guys on the next one. Bye.